Oh, good evening, everybody, and welcome to What's It Worth with Andrew Ford. Andrew Ford is back in Sarasota. He's here in the building, and we're going to have a blast this evening. Andrew, welcome home.
Hello.
It's been a while.
How are you? Absolutely.
You keep coming and going. And seriously, if you only hear me say one thing this evening, you need to hear this. Sunday is our auction. Andrew's been out and about. We've got over 800 lots for our Sunday auction. It's Lockwood Ridge University, next door to Detweiler. So come and join us on Sunday. It's going to be a blast. Right, so what have you been doing?
Recently, I've been in Massachusetts at Brimfield Antique Show. I think you know it. It's the largest outdoor antique show in the world. It's certainly in the country, probably in the world. Thousands of dealers come from all the United States to show a lot of Americana. It's the Northeast, so you have a lot of traditional furniture. There's silver, bronzes, lots of art, large collections of Chinese, which again is a really hot area of collecting right now. Jewelry. Weather was not exactly cooperative. 39 degrees in the morning. I haven't dealt with that in quite some time. But if you were in the Brimfield area during the week, it's a week-long event. Tens of thousands of enthusiasts come out, so it's really great for the business to get together.
What's brilliant too is like you take a couple of truckloads out there, but then you bring fresh and new back, which is just so exciting.
It is. It seems, we call it a non-event in the business because we sell a bit and we buy a bit. So, but we get fresh objects that have just come out of estates up in the Northeast and the Midwest. They bring the pieces to the Brimfield area, and we can bring them back down here to our clients here in the South, and we do quite well.
And what's quite amazing is when you bring it all back, when Andrew brings everything back, it's like, well, this is for this show and this for that show. And it's not all for here. I mean, you actually buy for wherever it is that you're going.
I try to have some future venues in mind when I'm buying certain things. Not always the case. Good value is good value either way. But there are certain pieces, for instance, this casket, just to talk about it for a moment. When you find high gilt type items like this, they do very well at sort of higher end luxury type shows. This is a Egyptian revival casket, and it articulates here, made of solid bronze, all gilt doré bronze work on here. Again, anyone who's seen these little medallion faces here with the paw feet, it's probably one of the finest caskets you're ever going to see. And this is just meant to be a desk accoutrement or something to sit on a sideboard. It's felt lined, so I suspect it was for someone's valuables.
So would that be something that would sell maybe at the Naples show?
Naples would be a good place. Miami comes to mind. Some of the New York Armory shows.
Wow.
Los Angeles Antique Show would do quite well with it. It would sell anywhere. It appeals to a mass market. Think of the Persian market. A lot of the Middle East finds this very opulent. Then it has sort of French design here. So think of the French, the Italians, the English. Anybody who's into high style, the Russians would love a box like this.
And since we've started this show, there's so much I want to talk about because so many things have been happening since we started this show. I mean, everybody's wanting a piece of you everywhere. And just even this week, and we're going to be showing actually a clip later on, Tampa Bay News, they actually filmed their whole show from the building. It was so exciting.
That was a lot of fun.
We're going to be showing you that later on. The What's It Worth shows, we're all over the place.
Sure.
We go into the community and have amazing What's It Worth parties, which it's just amazing.
You've been a big part of this. She's really spearheaded the whole effort to contact these ALF facilities, adult living facilities, and retirement homes.
And the yacht clubs and things. I mean, it's great for me. I love it. I get to go out to these amazing places, having the most amazing time. It really is. Also, with that great big 7 truckload of Asian we brought back from Richmond, Virginia, the store's completely changed. In fact, we've got a video that we would love to show you of the store where I'm actually at the trading store, Sarasota Trading Company. So let's just show you how it's changed. It looks amazing.
Early on, through osmosis, I got interested in the business, and we came to Florida in 1994, and I've been operating a business here ever since.
I'm Elizabeth Ford. We're at Sarasota Trading. I'm one of the co-owners with my husband Andrew, and we deal in so many incredible antiques, artifacts, statues, bronzes, paintings.
We deal in fine art, Asian antiquities, as you can see, fine furniture, and mid-century modern. It's a really relaxed environment down here in Burns Court. This is historic downtown Sarasota. People are actually really blown away by the shop. They come in here, they love the esoteric nature of the space itself. We also host a show at the Farmers Market on Saturdays, usually from roughly 9 to 11 a.m. It's the What's It Worth show with Andrew Ford. And we do verbal appraisals on antiquities and various whatnots people have at home that they're not exactly sure the values of. We usually get generally 30 or 40 people that bring down their objects, and it's a lot of fun. Every 2 months we have a live public auction, but also online to the world. We're in a unique area where performing arts and visual arts really make this whole city. It's the whole heartbeat of this city of Sarasota.
He is such a superstar. What a show. Andrew, this came in.
What do you think of that?
Well, I know it's a cigarette lighter.
Dunhill lighter, to be exact. Dunhill was a really important manufacturer of lighters over the past 100 years. This is 18-karat casing on this. You'll see the satin work. If you could take a look at this, really exceptional lighter. Smoking is on the decline, but the European market is still paying very strong for objects like this. It's done in yellow and white gold, done almost in that sort of python design.
Beautiful.
A lot of these designs that you find in jewelry are organic designs that are found out there in the world, and they're made in a more of a stylized fashion. So I suspect this is almost like the scales on a reptile of some sort.
So that would go through the auction, I would have.
Because of its size,
Yeah,
it really works well at auction.
yeah,
You know, if it fits in the palm of your hand, it's really a shippable item. Anybody can acquire this, whether it be 6,000 to 9,000 miles away. And it's a very high style object, not the kind of thing everyone handles, but anyone who's still smoking or enjoying a cigar would really enjoy one with an 18-karat Dunhill.
And shortly, we've got Crystal Summers coming up, who's going to be talking to us about the auction. She actually works at the auction house, knows all about the auction house, and she'll be joining us. But that will be going probably in the next auction. So
Yes, the July sale, absolutely.
that's absolutely right. So what else is happening down at Burns Court?
Well, we've just coming off, I think we spoke earlier about our Antonio Carreño exhibition that we had there last couple of weeks.
So
You're
can
very
I tell
familiar.
them?
Would you kindly go for it?
Antonio Carreño, we had the best ever show, an amazing man from the Dominican Republic. He does very large art, doesn't he? Anyway, here we go. So he says to me, I've spoken to your boss, and he said it's okay. I'd like to paint for you a large painting. You pick the colours and the size, and I'm going to send you a painting. So there's some great perks to this job. So I thought about it long and hard, and then said, you know what, you just send me what you'd like for me to have. I do like bright colours, but
It's
how
very
amazing
kind
is
of
that?
him. That's
He's
very
a wonderful man, isn't
He
he?
spent the weekend with us.
Yeah.
He and his, good friends here, Lou Balducci and his wife Mary, were kind enough to put him up.
Yeah.
And spent the better part of a Friday evening as well as a Saturday doing sort of a little representative work. He's an abstract artist. Sort of abstract expressionism is probably the best way to characterize his work. Very geometrical in design, very methodical. We got to watch him do an exhibition of his own work. It's neat to see an artist that doesn't leave the canvas, just confidently takes a line for 18 inches or 24 inches. Here I am. I'm so scared. I'm so squirrely when I paint. People that are very relaxed, you could just see artists and the confidence. And it's really amazing to see.
We also have, we got Vicky with us at the store.
Vicky
She still does her art
Vicky
class.
Chelf is another amazing artist.
Yeah.
We've talked about her before. You have a Ringling student painting here in Sarasota over the past 25 years. Studied in France. She's very well known. She's doing these still lives now, these surrealist type still lives of toys and things.
And she's now working with Igor. Igor's just got back from, is it New York, where
Igor's
he's been painting in some church?
Igor's our Russian restorer
Yeah,
as well.
amazing.
And we had Mark, who helps us do the production here.
Yeah.
He came in recently with the drone at the store. Talk
Oh,
about it, would you?
man, just yesterday. That was amazing. Have you ever seen anything like it? I thought it was like a UFO or something
Pretty
coming.
wild
I
to
mean,
see.
we've got a clip on this, seriously. Show us the clip, Mark, with the drone going right through the building. Unbelievable.
Okay, here's the drone here going through. You see him showing different pieces, but it's sort of interesting to see different angles that a drone can achieve, kind of coming backwards and forwards, approaching objects higher in the air than you would typically see. This was all done with remote-controlled drone footage. To me, it's really a high-tech sort of gadgetry in the promotion, marketing business these days. And Mark was able to come in and navigate in our area, which is we only have 18-foot ceilings. So to be able to come through there and do this, it's delicate work. But it really, you could see particular detail to the pieces and the profiles. And we were very happy for it. Yeah. It's identifying a lot of the Chinese collection that we've got through the Richmond estate. And you can look for a few future articles on this particular piece.
Absolutely amazing. So where's your next show? What's happening next?
You'll find me next. We're on our way to Massachusetts. We'll go back. We'll probably spend some time early in July in Brimfield from about the 9th to the 12th. It's my wife's birthday on the 12th, so I'll be taking her to Nantucket to go see some clients that we have in Nantucket. We'll spend a few days in Nantucket. Then on to Newport. We'll be in Newport for an evening. And then we'll be in New York, in Manhattan, in Times Square for a couple evenings. And then we go out to the Hamptons, the East Hampton Historical Society show at Mulford Farm, 19th to the 22nd. So we'll be doing work the whole time. Come see us. New York, Massachusetts. We'll be in Rhode Island. We'll be in Nantucket for a few nights. There's an auction there. Raphael Osona's auction will be going on. We have several pieces from our clients in that particular sale as well. So it's going to be an exciting time.
So, entertainment directors all over, contact us if you want us to come into your community and do a live What's It Worth. It's Absolutely. Wonderful. Everybody has a piece that they'd like to have a little bit of information about. Crystal Summers has arrived in the building, and she's here to talk about the auction. But before I go, I just would like to show you a clip from the Charlie Belcher show. They literally came last week and did from 6 till 9 and filmed the whole show from Sarasota Trading Company. It was amazing. Thank you for joining me, and shortly Crystal Summers will be here. Thank you.
Beautiful and old. Oh, right when they come to me, I say and old. Good day, Tampa Bay. I'm Charlie Belcher coming to you from Sarasota. Meet the beautiful Ford family, Andrew and Lathrop. I was all prepared to say that, and then I chickened out at the very end.
It's
Lathrop.
So okay.
That's a beautiful name,
Thank
Lathrop.
you.
And young Andrew.
Yes.
Yeah, truly a family affair here. Andrew, how did you get into the antique business?
Through family. We grew up behind an antique shop originally, and when I moved to Florida here in the early 80s, was always fascinated with collecting and got in the business in the 90s.
Your place is different, I think, than almost any other similar type business I've been in.
Sure.
Very museum quality feeling. Now, I don't say that as an insult. I know everything's for sale. Don't say museum, Belcher. But there's something about the uniqueness of everything I'm seeing here.
Yeah, we've got a combination of Impressionism, abstract paintings, a large Chinese and Asian collection that we have here as well. So.
Hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. So we have our large auction coming up. Tell us a little bit about what's coming up in the next sale.
We do. This weekend is our big auction. We have over 800 items. I brought a few little bits and bobs. Again, Andrew gave me a little bit of permission to bring what I like. And so here you'll see some classic items that we sell. We've got this gorgeous sterling silver tea set. We have some beautiful early Asian porcelain pieces and also some great paintings. So, Andrew, where would you like to begin?
We usually start with fine art. That's really been the backbone of our business for the past 6 years, as you well know. I think the painting at your feet is by the artist Hugh Bolton Jones. Hugh Bolton Jones was a late 19th, early 20th century artist. He and his brother, Francis, they traveled to Europe, did beautiful works in the late 19th, sort of Barbizon style, if you're familiar with the Barbizon school of French works. You see that luminous background that we always talk about, these luminous paintings, this hints of light right on the horizon line.
That golden hour.
Exactly.
vibe.
That late twilight hour is not easy to achieve in painting. This is a watercolor by the artist. He's also a painter in oil. However, he did this in watercolor, and it's even, I think, more difficult to achieve that twilight feel because watercolors have movement. The minute they hit paper, they expand, and you really have to be deliberate with your work. So this is a great piece. It was originally sold through Skinner's Auction in Boston. I think it sold at around $3,000. We're opening the bidding at $800, so that's under the money.
Yep, it's a good deal. We've had lots of people messaging us, asking questions, condition reports.
They should
They're
do.
excited.
His paintings hang in the Metropolitan Museum, the Corcoran Gallery of Art, the Brooklyn Museum. He's very well thought of in the world of 19th century fine art.
Yep.
As a second note, we'll change gears a little bit. Here we have a 4 to 5 piece set. The reason I call it 5 piece, there are a set of tongs I don't see here.
They're right here.
Oh, they're there. Okay, so these are Japanese tongs. Japanese silver comes in a higher grade than American silver. It's 950 silver, 95% silver. And to be perfectly honest, if you saw this from across the room, your first thought would be this must be Danish made or some modern.
It's really got a modern look.
Very, very high style look to this piece. This top actually goes this way, so that almost looks like a fin. But if you just look at the movement, the fluidity of the piece.
And I was shocked that it was sterling.
Okay.
I was convinced it was silver plate.
Sure.
Just by the
Just to look at it and the heft of it.
look and the weight.
It's got good gauge for 950 silver. And again, this was probably made in the 50s, just post World War II. And of course, during the World War II war effort, silver was collected all over the world and smelted for the war effort. So when they started making silver in the 1950s, it wasn't as heavy gauge as it was beforehand because they were still reticent of the fact that silver was a commodity that we needed to be aware of. And so they weren't over casting these sets of silver, but it's got beautiful movement. Wouldn't surprise me at all for it to bring in the $3,000-$4,000 range. The tray is silver plate, but it works very well with the set. And,
brings it all together.
Yeah, we got this at an Anna Maria estate. It was very, very nice consignment. In fact, her uncle worked in the Gorham factory. He was one of the designers for silver in the Gorham factory.
So exciting.
Absolutely. It's neat who you meet.
Where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about this.
This is one of Andrew's favorites. Every auction he has a favorite, and I would definitely say that the green ormolu vase, the early Chinese phoenix, is your favorite.
I think you've got it. Of course, having a phoenix vase to begin with in this uncontrolled green glaze on its own would be an incredible find. To have it mounted in this ormolu mounts this way, and these were, sold to Parisian art dealers, and they were cast in France. So it's a Chinese vase, French mount.
So that was like kind of a secondary addition.
This didn't begin with these mounts.
Oh,
it was such a
wow.
fabulous piece of porcelain. The French decided in the 19th century to embellish it and
They
really
kinda
show off
fancied it up a bit.
Absolutely,
I like
the French
the
are known
French.
for that. Absolutely. The fact that it has the phoenix incised in here, flying in the clouds. Chinese porcelain is all about symbolism, and with these pieces, the phoenix was sort of a high-end emperor kind of an object, and this would have been a very expensive object in the 17th and 18th century when it was first made. Then when it was mounted again in the 19th century, this was a really, we call it sort of the robber baron period, the early 20th century, where the haves really had it money-wise, and this was the kind of objects they liked to surround themselves with.
Gorgeous.
Now
Tell me about the ginger jar.
Let's talk about this ginger jar. You brought it to my attention.
I did.
Let's talk about it. Normally we find foo dogs, figures, court officials. Here we have a child, probably nobility, and he's riding a longma. Is this correct? Tell him a little bit about the longma.
So I shot this item for the catalog and didn't notice that he was riding on. It looks like a horse with a dragon's.
It's got horse hoofs
with a dragon's face.
And the dragon face.
And so I only just noticed it this week when we were tagging all the items. We go through the auction and tag every item with a lot number. So I'm like, whoa, where did this guy come from? So I looked it up, and I so enjoy the mythology and all the background.
It's
and
really exciting.
It's a sign of nobility,
Sure.
And so we're guessing that little guy riding him might have been a prince.
Usually when you see children like that, and of course the calligraphy in the background would probably tell us a little more about this.
My Chinese is a little rusty, so
I'm
I
with
don't
you.
know.
I'm with you. I'm not going to go there, but we have friends that will.
Yes, and speaking of Chinese, we're really excited. We just added a 4th platform. We now are on 4 different platforms. This is a Chinese platform, and we're really excited.
And
this is a big
it's
part of our
WeChat,
market.
correct?
We're on, it's Art Fox.
Art Fox, forgive me.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. And Art Fox is a Chinese national, mostly sale. They're out of China, so it gets to the domestic Chinese bidders that we have. We're on, of course, Live Auctioneers, Invaluable.
And BidSquare.
These two platforms alone are in the billions of secured bids. BidSquare, again, which was started by 6 or 7 auctioneers. Leslie Heineman, Wes Cowan comes to mind. I believe Brunk had something to do with it as well. And they all teamed up together and created this BidSquare platform, which has found its own way through the markets. Again, it's a beautiful platform.
And so we're everywhere.
Yeah, we are indeed.
If there's a platform, we're going to jump on it.
And it really, that's for our consignments. We have a fiduciary responsibility to consigners to get the word out in the best way possible. And the old days of the auction world where you would sort of raise your bidder paddle high in-house still continues. And we have a wonderful auction, great sushi lunch from Tsunami Sushi. We've always got my wines out
That's
of Napa.
what keeps me there, the sushi.
We're going to be back in California with our friend Jean-Charles Boisset, so I'll be bringing back lots of champagne.
Good, good, good.
And we have a great hosted event from 11 o'clock till around 6 or 7 in the evening.
Yep.
We go through 800 lots. Crystal's the manager there on all the different platforms. We all have learned each other's tasks a little bit, so sometimes we rotate on the computers to keep everybody moving.
Definitely. I would like to bring this to your attention. I snuck this in.
Oh, wow.
Could I hand this over to you? This
Would
is a
you
really
please?
special piece.
It really is. It's mounted on a board currently, but this is something that we're identifying as a view of the Hungs. I see this as a folly. In the center of the picture, if you'll notice, there is a what looks to be a concrete barrier in the center of the river. It was, and this is one of the Dutch follies, which were sort of like they were there to monitor traffic on the river, so to speak. And of course, the Dutch weren't allowed in mainland China for trading purposes, so they would have to anchor off of the mainland.
They got creative.
And they got creative, and see these little ferries in the foreground. They were ferrying goods in and out of the transport. And so you hear the word, the view of the Hongs, which is a typical sort of a comment for this. That's old Canton in Hong Kong today. Early Canton, the view of the Hongs, were all the different stately owned factories that were doing business there in Hong Kong at the time, just below Victoria Peak.
Speaking of sneaky trade, we have that wedding bed, the opium bed.
We do,
Can
absolutely.
you talk a little bit about that bed? We don't have it with us because it is absolutely gigantic. It would take up the majority of this space right here. It's a really fantastic piece.
It is indeed. These were made in the Qing Dynasty for a wedding couple. These would have been made in a year in advance to someone's wedding, and there's an area of where the wedding couple would spend their first few evenings together in their own peaceful environment. Back in the 19th century, in the 18th century, young couples that were getting married didn't always have a home for them, so often one would be living with typically the daughter's family at first, and the new son would move in, and they would.
That sounds like fun.
There was a little more respectful time, I suspect, and so it was about tradition.
Yeah, here it is. It is just
Here's the
massive.
bed here, heavily gilded, carved, and this is really a large-scale bed that you have here. You have the sort of seating area in the foreground, and then the bed towards the back. And these windows in the back that you see there, they adjust. They even have carved wooden slides that go up to give you a little privacy. Really an amazing piece. These are transacting in the $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 range. It'll be interesting to see where this one falls.
It's really special, and it completely collapses. You know, one of our
Absolutely.
staff members has become an expert in putting it together, and it's like a pop-up.
It's meant for travel. And if you
Yeah.
were either a noble family or a high-style, wealthy family at the time and you traveled, this was a bed that you could take with you and go with. When we were in Macau, at the museum in Macau, they had several versions of these wedding beds that went back to local Macau residents that ended up getting this to the museum. So these are prized in the trade.
And I've got one more, which is the beautiful Mount Vesuvius.
Sure.
This is kind of classic Andrew. This
Yeah.
says Andrew all over it.
That's right.
Tell me why.
We do a lot of paintings in the continental realm, Italian in particular. Again, this is a view of Pompeii, and you can tell again by Pompeii in the distance, but a view of Vesuvius. And when Vesuvius is active, when you see the clouds that are still puffing from Vesuvius, you know it's that late 19th century period just before Vesuvius erupted. After the eruption, there was no action right there. The pressure from the earth releases, and there is no smoke coming up there.
Here
So
it is,
this
yeah.
really dates it to an exact time. And this, of course, is a fabulous view of a couple figures walking on the promenade, the Italian promenade here. And very typical of a view from there. Still exists today in an original late 18th, early 19th century package here, continental style. These paintings are prized. We can sell them to the European market very well because they're not terribly large in size. It's not too bulky
it's the
to ship.
perfect size. Driving with it and carrying it in here was a little freaky for me, but we made it in one piece.
It's actually in very good condition, and it's it's beautifully made. These are very saleable in the market today.
Just one thing, because I love to have you teach other people what I'm learning,
Sure.
which I find so interesting. Talk to me about the craquelure and what that means.
On a painting like that, on a painting that's 120 to 180 years, you're looking for some form of alligation. We call it alligation in the market, and that is the paint separation that's occurring.
You see these little crack lines.
There's little crack lines that happen as paint dries over time. Typically, the artists early on were using bittentine and turpentine. It dried the paints more quickly. They could bring it to market more quickly. And in doing so, they thinned out the works in certain places, and that creates cupping, which creates cracks as the canvas dries over time. Gets down to the south here where we have conditional issues. If this wasn't always in an air-conditioned home, and we know, based on its date, that the first 100 years of its life, it was unair-conditioned, just because the air
Pretty
conditioning
special to
wasn't
be
around.
able to have a look at it and realize how old it is.
It is, and it's neat to know the background on it, and that's a very interesting question. Tell us about the crack. Why does that occur? There's a little bit of breathing that goes on with canvas over time, and there's movement, little undulation.
Gorgeous. All right. And then we have a clip, actually, that we're going to show that Mark put together for us for the auction, so we're going to run that clip.
Love to see it. That'd be great.
That'd be great. We're done?
And we were speaking earlier of the picture of the view of the Hongs. That came to us from a local collector around the corner from the auction house. Her father was a notable collector in Hong Kong, Englishman living in Hong Kong for quite some time, as of course it was, Hong Kong up until the 1990s was owned by England, and it was on lease for 100 years. And so they were living over there at the time, acquiring lots of antiquities. So we have many Chinese export-related objects that came from that particular consignor. I would pay close attention at the auction this time. There are some wonderful objects. Speaking of wonderful objects, here's a little pair of Chinese shoes, which at first glance look so diminutive that surely they're only doll shoes.
Exactly. I was convinced there was no way this is accurate to size. Absolutely shocking, but we actually have some Chinese experts that said this is the kind of size we're talking about, because they would begin, this is for the binding. It's very common in, obviously a long time ago in the Chinese culture, they would start with children, so that's why they're so small. And it was a sign of nobility and beauty. They really felt like these bound feet were beautiful.
So they created these deformities to show their prominence.
Their prominence, their wealth, their beauty. So it's interesting to look at history and how they view different things as beautiful.
Absolutely.
I'm interested to see what the future is going to look like in terms of beauty. Who knows?
I would agree. Maybe much longer shoes.
Yeah.
One never knows.
Shoes. Who knows? But anyway, so yeah, that family had all sorts of really interesting things.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see. People collect certain periods of time of certain cultures that were going on, and it's really a time capsule from that period. So I always talk about how we're teaching history. We're working on sending this information to the next generation that might have interest. You're a bit younger than I am, so it's your duty. It's your duty to pass this on to your generation. It really is. Can't tell you how many friends are contacting me all the time talking about needing to sell objects that are being handed down to them. Please call me. We love that. At the same time, remember that I'd like some of these things to be kept, and I'd like a new group of collectors to go on. So these are very rare objects. Today's sort of a microwave generation. Everybody wants to go to IKEA and have it all done and dusted. However, if you really want to keep money, a good way of preserving wealth is buying good quality objects. When you're done with the object, you still have a tea set to sell. So it's an interesting part of it all.
Great. Well, if you want to join us, SarasotaEstateAuction.com, and you can find out where to bid and what we have for auction and where our location is. So please join us.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook,
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
Like us on Facebook, both Sarasota Trading as well as Sarasota Estate Auction. Come down to see the over 800 objects we have at Sarasota Estate Auction. Sunday, 11 a.m. We'll be there.
It's going to be fun. We're going to have food. We're going to have drinks. We're going to have Andrew. And also, if you have consignments, email us at SarasotaEstateAuction@gmail.com. Send us pictures so we can look at what you've got.
It's a great opportunity to talk to us just before the sale. I can't tell you how many times consigners come to me because they come down to look at the sale, and just before we get going, they say, we have so many fabulous items, jewelry, bronzes, silver. Think of us for fine art. Think of us for your finest quality objects you have at the house. We're very capable. Our sales, we're reaching over 39, 40 countries per sale, so our reach is unbelievable.
Definitely.
Oriental rugs, quite of course. We have a large
We
collection of
do.
Oriental rugs.
Massive. Absolutely massive. The size of the parking lot. When people come and want to see the rugs, I'm like, really? Okay.
So come on down, take a look. Some monumental palace-sized rugs, some of the finest around. Come see us at Sarasota Estate Auction, Sunday, 11 a.m. Good job.